Ta-da! Yeah, utter wrong-uns. Evening. I've been reading your comments. You're far too funny. Hang on a second. I need to get that out of the way. Because you just need to know that I'm radiating light and heat. And let's do that. Marvellous. I've just been laughing my cap off. It's really bizarre. Just, you know, sort of collective... Oh, let's do that one. Collective consciousness. How somehow things happen or somebody says something and you kind of expect it. So, GB Patriot. Yeah, wrong. Hi, Adrian. I hope you watched Unlawfull Killing about Diana's death, narrated by Keith Allen. No relation. And yes, I have. I watched it this afternoon for fear of you taking the mickey good. Oh, for goodness sake, Adrian, you know, get your act together. So I have watched it. Let's go back to the beginning, shall we? Yeah, I've no idea where Talbot Tracy is. She's probably off out walking up and down and flogging it for 15 quid a go. Andrew James. Evening, Andrew. He says, hello, Double A. Please keep it smutty again tonight, please. Smutty the better, said the Bishop. I think the phrase you're looking for is actress to the Bishop. I don't know where to start, really. I'll tell you a little story, just for the first 5 minutes while everybody gets their feet under the table. As ever, we'll do some of the comments, but I want to tell you a little story. So, some of my gags go right over the top of the new Mrs. Allen's head. I mean, right over the top. To the point where it makes it even funnier, because I've got to explain it to them. And you know how sometimes... sort of wives, girlfriends, certainly mums, we would never ever swear to our mother, and to this day I've never used, I mean she's not here anymore, but I've never used profanity or anything in front of my mother, just out of respect, really. And so I was doing the washing up with the new Mrs. Allen last night after dinner, and we were just talking about in general, and she says, you know, sometimes I don't understand your gags. I said, what do you mean? You don't understand me gags? You're wrong. Gary. I was going to get to, let me just make a note of that, about Edinburgh and that explosion yesterday. So I'm having a conversation with the new Mrs. Allen. I wash, she dries. And we kind of use that time almost in a meditative sense, just to connect. You know, we connect over dinner, where we're always talking. And she just blurts out, I don't understand some of your gags. I said, what do you mean? She said, oh, you said something on a live the other night. And I said, oh, you still watch them, do you? She said, yeah, you just said that you don't like sweets. I said, what? She said, you said you don't like sweets. I said, I've never said that in my life. And she said, yes, you did. You said you don't like fishermen's friends. I said, I would never suck on a fisherman's friend. She said, exactly, you don't like sweets. So after I'd sort of guffawed a few times and then picked myself up off the floor, I said, it doesn't mean that, you're wronging. She said, what do you mean? What does it mean then? I don't understand. I said, I would never suck on a fisherman's friend. Didn't get it. Do you know how innocent some of the wives, girlfriends, mums, I mean, I definitely couldn't say that in front of my mum, but I told the new Mrs. Allen, one of me oldest and best gags. Don't get it. Thinks I don't like sweets. Now, is there anybody in the house tonight, in the body of the church, that I'm going to have to explain that to? Do you know what a fisherman's friend is? Oh, for my life. Mr. Jollop, I used bad language once and my mum heard me and she actually did scrub my mouth out with soap. No way. Andy Turner saying, get a new gag. Get a new what, Andy? The Theo Bovril. Ooh, Tracy. Do wrong uns get a discount? Do you know? Terry Wookfit looked like he's having a boomer moment. Hang on, Terry. What's one of them? What's a boomer moment? Is it clean? Can we discuss it in mixed company? Andy Turner, wife. Andy Turner, yes. Or get a new wife. No, I think it's funny. I mean, honestly, if I'm ever under stress or not having a good day, I can just sit there and listen to the new Mrs. Allen go, you don't like sweets? What do you mean? Well, you said you wouldn't suck on a fisherman's friend. Oh, dear Lord. I think either I need to up my game so that the new Mrs. Allen gets the gags, because some of you have definitely got the gags. And I mean, there's some of the other ones that are even worse, that are just more graphic, and she still won't get them. So there you go. If anyone's wondering why I won't suck on a fisherman's friend, because I don't like sweets, you tart. Anyway, Pink Rose, I know what you mean. I had to Google half the stuff Alex was talking about. That's because he probably nicked it off me. Pink Rose, well, I'm gonna issue a challenge for you tonight. Don't mention AB. There you go, because that's all you ever do. Just gets a bit dull, really. And I haven't replied yet, because do you know your how can I put this? We've checked some of the... No, I won't. I'm not going to do it in the live. I'll do it privately, so you can understand what I've got at my disposal. Sandra, is that Witham, Sandra? Blades. She says, what do you think to the FA Cup draw, Adrian? We've got the skunks. We've got the barcodes on the 6th of January. Now, ordinarily, you know all these other, and before we start, don't forget to smash the likes. We've only got 25 of them. There's at least 100 people watching. You're utter wrong-uns. You know how people go, yes, Everton, Liverpool, it's quite, daggers drawn. And then they talk about Rangers and Celtic. Oh, it's in the water. I am telling you, the last time that Sunderland played Newcastle at Sid James's Park and we beat them, mind you, I'm not holding out much hope this season, but we beat them. There was riots on the streets. Remember that famous picture of a Newcastle United fan wanting to punch a policeman's horse? It kicks off like nowhere else in the world ever. Everybody else are just... There is no rivalry like it. Sunderland and Newcastle. Sorry, I'll explain. Sunderland. 2 U's and the D is silent. So when you go, oh, you Mackham. I have things in store for Adrian too. Pink Rose, I'm a married man. You're wrong. There's no rivalry in world football like it. So the 6th of January, I will guarantee you that it's going to kick off big time. It don't kick off like in a really, really bad way. It's just we hate each other. It's as simple as that. And if you think we hate each other, my nephew, who's about 7 foot tall now, and he's a big lad, and when he was little, he for some inexplicable reason, he came out as a Newcastle United supporter. And I took him to one side and I said, you need to find a new home. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, we can't have Newcastle United supporters in our family. So you make a choice. You either switch allegiance to red and white, not black and white, or you can pack your bags and Foxtrot Oscar. Poor kid. I think he was at about 4 at the time. Poor kid. But it's deadly serious in the Northeast. Football is deadly serious. I think it's January the 6th, the Saturday. Is that FA Cup Day Saturday? Oh, my life. I mean, I'm going to get out of the country, go skiing. Did I also tell you I'm going to Davos? You know what Davos is, don't you? Yeah. So I don't know whether to go to, film there or give you an insight as to what Davos is all about. But yeah, I'm going for a week with the new Mrs. Allen in January. Can you see my lips move? Sandra says it's the same in Sheffield. One team lose, it may harm others. I know. It's great to have a rivalry in footy, but it's just Bogota and River Plate is a bit tasty, Adrian. Mr. John Up, thank you. I know, not as tasty as Newcastle and Sunderland. I'm telling you, there is literally, if a player doesn't give their all for the shirt in the local derby, the Tyne-Wear derby, they're just sent to Coventry. They're just ostracised. They can get lost. They have to put their lives on the line on the pitch. No quarter given, no quarter taken. That's it. On the pitch. You leave it all on the pitch. But, I mean, are they top 6 of the Premiership? And we haven't even got a striker. So, yeah, Fuel Bottle, give us an insight on Davos and the WEF, Adrian. Okay, no, Adi, man. I'm not Davros. Davos. I know Davros is the leader of the Daleks. Mind you, he has to leave his wheelchair at the door now, seemingly, according to the new Doctor Who. Do you know, I switched off Doctor Who. I loved it. Loved it from being a boy. Scared absolutely brickless of the Daleks when I was a little lad. I used to hide behind the sofa. Didn't like them. Scared me. Just couldn't watch them. And now we find out that Davros, the leader of the Daleks, has got to leave his wheelchair because the BBC are going woke with it. What? I mean, go woke, go broke, BBC. You'll be done in 10 years. You'll have a Netflix model to get your money, because what you are doing at the moment is just beyond disgusting. It's offensive what you're doing to Doctor Who. And Christopher Eccleston, one of our finest actors, becomes Doctor Who. David Tennant, one of our finest actors, becomes Doctor Who. We're getting real pedigree into the lead role of Doctor Who. And what do the BBC do? Give it to a woman. Now, before we go down the sexist route, that is not what I am intending. I am saying that, in my view, Doctor Who is male, white, middle-aged. I don't want the pronouns changing. I don't. It's just wokery for the sake of wokery. Don't the BBC get it? I pay me licence fee not for you to bugger about with it and destroy it. And it's one of your greatest money earners in America. You stop it. Stop the malarkey. Stop it all. Just leave it alone. It's not broke. Leave it alone. Oh, don't. Not James Bond. Don't. No. Who said that? You're wrong. The Jacobites. James Bond will be non-binary next. Look, as far as I'm concerned, there's two sexes. Not all. And I've seen a video today of they're actually taking the rise out of the current situation where there's 5,000 sexes and you're this and that and the other, and I'm going to wear some scrunchies today, so the scrunchie will indicate what my pronouns are going to be today, and I get all that, because initially I watched it and I thought, they're being serious, and then no, they weren't being serious. It was a skit. Kate Webster, as long as Charlie Boy and aren't conspiring for world domination, stick to the chocolates and cuckoo clocks. Kate, have you been on the cooking sherry? I have to explain. Look, I'm not being bright tonight. I'm being quite dim. So let me also tell you this. I've come across something in my archive which I knew I had somewhere, but I wanted to bring to you. And me and the Scarlet Pimpernel, we've had a discussion, and I wanted to upload this bit of archive on the 1st of December. And the Scarlet Pimpernel said, no, it's too soon. So we're gonna do it around about the 10th of December. Give you a couple of weeks just to get you in the mood for Christmas. I don't know whether you've got your tree up. My magnificent erection has lights on it. At the moment, they're working. So this bit of archive, let me tell you what it is. Century 106. I did a lunchtime phone-in. and we invited all the children, everybody under, I think it was the age of 5. Everybody under the age of 5 that wanted to speak with Father Christmas could call the phone in, and we had a direct link to Lapland, and we would put them direct through to Father Christmas, Santa Claus, whatever you want to call him. And singularly, it is one of the most joyous pieces of radio I've done. It's magical. It is just the awe and wonderment and magic in the voices of the children. We had Father Christmas on. Don't you be saying otherwise. It was Father Christmas. Genuinely. We had a direct link with Lapland. Cost us a load of money. Direct link with Lapland. And we got all the kids on for an hour. And the Father Christmas was wonderful with them. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, you know how you can have like all year round Christmas radio stations? How certain radio stations are just absolutely mullering you with Christmas songs. For me, a little bit too early. The only Christmas song that I want to hear at the moment is Donny Hathaway, This Christmas. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Christmas song. And on my show on Zetland FM last night, because it was December, I was able to play the song. I don't know whether you like Christmas songs all year long. I don't know whether, now that we're in the first weekend of December, whether that's soon enough for your Christmas songs. But all I will say is we're going to upload this hour of magic for you to listen to. Now, you might be a hard-hearted old tart that just bugger off, Adrian. I'm too old for Father Christmas anymore. But just allow your heart to soften a little and allow yourself to hear the kids and the magic and the wonderment of, oh, Mum, I'm through to Father Christmas. Wonderful. And sometimes there's a couple of kids that come on and the parents have to sort of jivvy them along, because what happens when you call a phone in on a radio station, I don't know whether you've done that before, but you get through to a phone up. And as I've said, it'll either be, it would have been my mate Leighton, who's a wonderful guy, or it might have actually been AB through the glass answering the phones for me. But we get the numbers and we call them back, and then Mum or Dad has to look after them while they're about to go through, and we put them on hold and they can hear Father Christmas speaking to the other callers before they get to them. And sometimes when I'll say, oh, Father Christmas, we've got Fred, or we've got Junior Stevens on the line, and Father Christmas would speak with them. And sometimes the children are so awestruck that they can't actually speak. They can't believe that they're through to Father Christmas. And that's the magic. That is the magic. Now, I don't know whether you still have family around or you don't, or just for you. And you can listen to it on your own or with your family or in the kitchen while you're preparing dinner or anything. But it is just, for me personally, one of the most magical pieces of radio I've been allowed to do. And I loved it. It's now 25 years old, but still as magic today as it was 25 years ago. Andy Turner, I agree with you. Christmas #1, Fairy Tale of New York. Shame what happened to Shane during the week, but he'd been ill for a while. Wow, Junior Stevens. I remember winning a compilation CD on Pulse FM. Have you still got it? Mind you, we haven't really advanced from CDs. I've still got all this vinyl, and seemingly, if you give vinyl this Christmas to someone, it's going to be worth a shed load of money in the future. At one point, I had 80,000 pieces of vinyl. I just got them sent from record companies. So everything from sort of 82 through to 2000. Oh, Leighton, you're rocking. Good to have you on the live, big lad. So Leighton, who's in the chat, was probably the phone op through the glass that did the show with me with all the kids and Father Christmas. Good to have you on board, Leighton. Good to see you. So that's coming up probably around the 10th of December. Give you 2 weeks run up. You can listen to as many times as you wish. The other good news is that my supplier, my dealer, is going to have my Von B hibiscus tea back in stock in January. So I'll get my year's worth. I'll get my year's stock in January. Oh, I couldn't have. Okay, we'll get the GP Patreon. I was going to start. Yes, we'll start with. So what we're going to do tonight? We're going to talk about the Keith Allen unlawful killing doc. We'll do that now because GB Patriot keep asking me. Who would have thought a politician would lie to save their necks? That's coming. The Royal Soup, Unpalatable or Simple Truth. I mean, look at the shite that's been going on this week. I mean, it's outrageous. Global warming everywhere except Cumbria. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about I'm a Celeb. Should this be the final series? Because I think it's just pants. And the Euro 2024 draw. Did you watch it? Did you hear your mum in the background? I laughed uncontrollably. Hayden said they're trying to censor Fairy Tale of New York. I know they did. You're an old slut and... I can't remember the lyrics, but you kind of go, shit, be sharp. But then when you see it in context as poetry, it's beautiful. Pink Rose. Terry Wookfeet, you have no idea. Oh, I think you'll find he does, Pink Rose. I think Terry has more than an idea. So that's what we're going to talk about. We've got some other stuff. Spoke to me Peruvian shaman yesterday about ayahuasca and huachuma, the San Pedro cactus. I'm going to talk about that over the next few weeks. He's very busy. He's got a couple more retreats to do in December because it's still 25 degrees out there in December in the Peruvian Amazonian jungle. But it was good to speak with him yesterday. We'll get to COP28. Did you know that for COP28, the guest list had nearly 80,000 people? There were thousands of bankers and consultants and lobbyists, not just the 200 VIPs and Charlie. And then, so they go to COP28 and go, oh, right, global warming, yes. Right, we've got to tackle this and the taxpayer can pay for it. And then all their planes, their private jets got frozen at Munich airport. Lauren Taylor. I've got about 500 vinyl records from the early 60s to 90s and 2 record decks and associated crap. Bless you, Lauren. All my late husband's wonder if it's worth anything was going to bin it. No, Lauren, don't bin it. I'll help you sell it. I wouldn't want anything from it. I just sometimes I've had blimey, Prince, Paul McCartney, Stones, Beatles stuff that have just come through from the record company, and I've sold it on to dealers. But my primary aim is to get the pieces to a good home. I gave a load to my hospital radio station that started my radio career. So I had all the stuff, the Oasis stuff, all the big artists from the 80s through the 90s. I had loads of white label vinyl. And the other day I found a Talking Heads white label album that I think it's worth a bit of money. So, Lauren, don't. Just be patient, gentle. There's a bit of gold there. 500 pieces, you could have some beauties. Because sometimes you never know what you're going to find in a collection. As long as you've looked after them, as long as they haven't been chucked about and used as coasters for cups of tea, then you might have some gold in there. And it's surprising what you can find. Kate Webster, duty-free Lambert and Butler and a jumbo Toblerone. Annie East perfume. Great start to my holiday. God, I love that Annie East. I always think of that perfume as Annie East Nin, the author who wrote some very enlightening stuff. If you don't know the author Annie East Nin, go and Google her. Go and find out a bit more because it'll make your hair curl. But I do. She is a great read. Who's that? Don Wigley. I love vinyl. Take any John Miles. I told you about music the other night being the best news jingle on any commercial radio station in the world ever. Just amazing. Anyway, let's talk. So GB News has asked me a very straight question. Have I watched the Keith Allen Unlawfull Killing doc? And yes, I have. I watched it this afternoon. Because we're sort of, 20 odd years down the line. Yeah, Gary Darcy says, we've got quite a few people watching, so if you could smash the like button, let's get over 100 before we complete tonight's live. It would help the channel amazingly. Thank you. I have watched it before, but sort of 25 years down the line, a lot of the information that's in there was, even Piers Morgan's in there, and obviously working for Mr. Fayed at the time. And I'd forgotten the burning of the royal warrants on the side of Harrods, because I said to you, the early editions on the night that Diana, in my view, was murdered, the royal warrants, there was a massive argument going on the front pages of most of the Sunday's tabloids saying that the royal warrants were going to be taken away from Harrods. But obviously, once the later editions after midnight started to come through, then the Diana crash superseded everything. It took every headline of every newspaper around the world. But I'd forgotten that Mr. Fayed had burnt those logos, if you will, from the side of Harrods. He just put them to fire in sight of his son Dodie. And that was quite challenging to watch. I'd forgotten about it, but it was quite challenging to watch. Because and the bit about Prince Philip at the end. I mean, I'd kind of forgotten a lot of the information that was in that doc because it's 20 odd years old. But I found my Kitty Kelly, the Royals book, and I was going to sort of hold it up so you could see. But if you ever want to get a real insight into the royal family and into Prince Philip, the former Duke of Edinburgh, try and get a copy of Kitty Kelly's The Royals. Because I've read it a couple of times, and every time I read it, it's still like, you can't write that. Oh, she did. Didn't pull any punches. I think it's a great read. But nowadays, 20 odd years down, I mean, I was promoting this in 97, and it was released, was it mid 90s, early 90s? Before Diana died. But Kitty Kelly does an absolute hatchet job, not on the Queen, but on Philip. And there's a piece in this Unlawfull Killing where they talk about Philip and his peccadillos and what he got up to and his relations and what those relations did. But I will give this context that prior to the Second World War, you have to remember that the Romanov family, the royal family of Russia, were put to death by the revolution. The Russian Revolution, Bolsheviks, the Romanovs were put to death. So the royal households around Europe were absolutely scared witless that communism from Russia was going to spread its tentacles out through Europe and was going to obliterate all the royal households. So here's this funny bloke called Adolf who comes along, who's a fascist, brown shirt, and he's going to deal with the communists. So that's why a lot of Saxe-Coburg royal household and some of the other royal households made friends with Adolf because they thought by being friends with him, he was going to stop the onslaught of communism. So throwing sort of epithets and bric-a-brats out towards royal households, they were, and I've said to you before, in any household, in the households of the rich, the rich and powerful would plan for 3 generations. Everybody else plans for a Saturday night. And the rich and powerful, their 3 generations, the first generation would take on the family seat, the family wealth, the family seat, to propagate it, to make it go forward. And then anybody else would go into the clergy for the power. And then others might become a politician. But being a politician was seen as very lowly. The political classes were not, a bit rough and ready. But I think if you look at Philip's family, SS, German SS, and other bits and pieces, Tower Block Tracy, what on earth are you talking about? Aye, you got an admirer, Dame Anna, and the wrong un sitting in a tree. So the Keith Allen Unlawfull doc, yeah, and I'm just sort of going off what I watched this afternoon. The embalming, I was very well aware of that. I was aware of that when it happened. They didn't use the picture that I have, because I think that would have upset a lot of people. It's not available. And some people have said, oh, yeah, I've got it. I don't think you have. And Keith Allen also said that it took them a good hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, to get Diana to hospital. But they were saying that they were moving very slowly because they were working on Diana at the time, and nobody knows who was actually in the ambulance working on Diana. Just one doctor was named. Everybody else, nobody knows. It just gives you and the telling point right at the very end of the doc, and it's on YouTube. That's where I found it. I found it on YouTube. The telling part of this documentary was that the mainstream media in the UK just said it was a terrible accident and it was a drunk driver. And yet the inquiry deemed it an unlawful killing. And what they very cleverly did is they went off to do some vox pops, and they said, what do you think was the outcome of the inquiry? And they said, oh, drunk driver, accident, drunk driver, accident. And Keith Allen, or the production team behind it, had to say, no, it was deemed unlawful killing. And then it was swept under the carpet. So it'll be interesting to see what the Crown does now that they've given sort of the unlawful killing of Diana. That's the official theory, unlawful killing. Now that they've given that the 4 episodes, they can move on to more recent, William and Kate, and what's going on. So I think they were quite gentle in the Crown with what happened around Diana. But the Keith Allen doc were very well put together. And as I've said to you before, and you won't have seen this anywhere, nobody says this, but that white Fiat was out of France through the tunnel into a scrapyard in the UK. Look, I have no proof. And I say this every time. If I was psychic, I'd be winning the lottery every weekend. And I don't, and I'm not. But it is just my feeling that they could never trace that white Fiat. They found the photographer who owned a white Fiat, killed himself, shot himself twice in the head, then set himself on fire. How weird, man. The Jacobite, the actress playing Kate, is nowhere near as good looking. Am I right? I'm a married man. The Jacobite. You can say that, but I can't possibly comment. Correct. So, the Unlawful Killing doc, I think it's there as an historical document that will, perpetrate itself. Like, there's adverts in it, like, every 2 minutes. So, it must be getting a lot of views, still 20-odd years down the line. But all of the information that's in there is out in the public domain. Some of it we knew at the time, and then some of it kind of just leaked out, so to speak. That some people, and people, it amazes me how people will go, conspiracy theorist, What do you know? Well, actually, if you look back over the last 30 years, the conspiracy theorists seem to be quite bob on. So it's just one of those things that people throw out going, oh, you're a nutter, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, there is still information, and it is down to when I get enough time, as I say all the time. But the video I want to do around Diana, all the stuff that I want to say in that video is in the public domain. And it never ceases to surprise me that people forget. So, like, I'd forgotten about Philip and his relations and the Saxe-Coburgs, and who changed their name to Windsor in the First World War. And Mr. Fayed burning those crests off the side of Harrods, and just the utter devastation of it all. And I know they had some helicopter shots. And I said this at the time on the radio. Can you see all of those flowers that were laid at Buckingham Palace and at Kensington Palace for Diana, the royal family? How many of those florists donated any of the profit they made from thousands of bunches of flowers that were laid at Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace? How many of those florists donated any of that money to charity? Not one of them. So, good watch, quick watch. If you've not seen it, just type into YouTube, Keith Allen, Unlawful Killing. You'll find the doc. It's about an hour and 15 long. So, GB Patriot, thank you for the steer. Thank you for keeping on to me to go and watch it. I can't say enjoy it is the way to describe it. But it was... it's a very powerful documentary. And as I say, Keith Allen's no relation. I wish he was. I wish I was a penny behind him. And his daughter Lily. But it's a good doc. But there are some stuff that people's missed. And The Crown, what they've done is they've obfuscated it. They've kind of muddied the waters. Because if I told you a particular thing, you'd kind of think, hang on a second. No, that's not the truth. That's not what the history says. Well, I know what I saw, and I know what I experienced, and I will tell you nothing other than the truth, because I've got no need to lie. Adrian, did you ever meet Shane McGowan? Yeah. He wasn't sober. I wasn't interviewing him, somebody else was. But, yeah, met him briefly. Do you know, in relation to that, I met a lot of stars, certainly while I was at Rock FM in Preston. And I was looking at something before I came to air earlier, that Preston is one of the most violent places in the UK. And there's a couple of places, and I'm thinking, well, hang on, I lived there. I was in Preston for a couple of years. I was in Nottingham for a couple of years. And when they say that Nottingham's really violent, I never experienced any of that. And Preston's just, I mean, it's got the largest bus station in Europe. That's its claim to fame, but violent. Ebony, shout out to Unlawful Killing producer, the great Victor Lewis Smith, who died this year. Keep up the good work, Adrian. The mob shout, conspiracy theorist. I've always shouted back, no, Kriegel thinker. I agree with you, Ebony. Yeah, you've seen it as well, Gary. Gary Darcy says, Preston, Coventry, Bradford. I've like, one of my exes was from Coventry. I just laughed. I didn't think it was violent at all. Bradford. But a Newcastle-Sunderland match on the 6th of January, you'll soon find out. Because we haven't played for a few years. And the Geordies are still unhappy at us absolutely smashing them. I don't know whether you're following this COVID-19, I can say it because I'm not monetizing it, this COVID-19 inquiry. Matt Hancock. I bet his backside was going 50p sixpence all the time that he was in front of the KC. Next, Boris. Whoa. And you can tell they're nervous, because didn't Matt Hancock turn around and say, can I have immunity from prosecution if I give evidence at the inquiry? No, you're wronging. Because if it's found that you've done anything illegal, you should be in front of the beak and serve time if you've done anything illegal. It's down to the police and the evidence gatherers. But Boris, he's like leaking stuff and arguing with Dominic Cummings. Dominic Cummings is proper. I don't know whether you follow him on Twitter. By the way, I'm on Twitter. It's just at Adrian Allen. Who's just said that? Just somebody said COVID-19 inquiry. 2 words, whitewash. Oh, I don't think you're going to be far wrong. I mean, it's just, they're saying that if Matt Hancock said, I was asking for them to lock down, and they didn't. And if we'd locked down 3 weeks earlier, we would have saved 90% of the people that died. Can you smell that? You know what that is, don't you? Bullshit! To Ward Rutherford, the most violent Doctor Who fan I ever met was from Preston. Even his Glaswegian Whovians were scared of him. Did sell me a vintage Dalek toy, quite cheaply, mind. Yeah. Oh, the Ouijas are lovely, man. The Glaswegians, Ouijas for short, the Ouijas are lovely. They're funny. And they have a... It's really odd. The Glaswegians have like a singy-songy element to the way that they speak. Although, first time I went to Scotland and I was working for a radio station in Edinburgh called Talk 107, and I literally was watching the TV, and there were these people from Glasgow speaking, and I was like, is that a different language? What's that? Because obviously in Edinburgh and sort of the east coast of Scotland, it's a beautiful, gentle lilt. But when you go out to the Ouija, oi, oi, oi. But honestly, they are the best people to go for a beer with. I genuinely love the Scots. I would never hear a bad word said against them unless we're playing them in footy or rugby. And it's all in banter. It's all in good banter. Hang on, Gary Darcy. Why does the River Clyde run through Glasgow? Gary, I've no idea. Why does the River Clyde run through Glasgow? I'll wait. Junior Stevens. Who was your favourite Doctor Who, Adrian? Eccleston. Every time. Eccleston. I've seen him do Shakespeare. I think he's just a force of nature. He's an amazing actor. And I would say Eccleston. But, you know, Tennant's a good close. 12-inch Tennant. He's a very close second. Gary Darcy. Why does the River Clyde run through Glasgow? Because if it walked, it would get mugged. Yeah, I've heard all them. But the other thing about Glasgow is, and Edinburgh for that matter, don't walk around with your face in your boots in Edinburgh and Glasgow. Just have a look at how beautiful the buildings are in Edinburgh and Glasgow. Just beautiful, breathtaking. And the countryside, I mean, I lived in Scotland for 10 years. Met someone, moved up there, happily ever after. Boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, happily ever after, didn't work out, that's okay. And then, so I was there from sort of 2006-ish to 2017. So I was there for well over a decade and loved it. And the people that I work with and the people that I'm friends with, just the best people. No messing about with them. You upset them, they'll tell you, but they'll guard you back. They're the best friends. The Scots are just amazing. Maverick 0079. Has good old Alex been in touch from prison yet, Adrian? Bet he's dead jealous of your rise in the YouTube world. Maybe he will beg you to get on your show. He's a wrong'un, right? He's not going to be in touch. He won't be in touch. Mr. John Up, Tom Baker for me. Ooh, interesting, Mr. John Up. He was quite a character as both an actor and as Doctor Who. Interesting. Junior Stevens, yeah. Mrs. Allen's Fabby. She's out on the lash. I'm going to go and pick her up. And I'll pour her into the Allen taxi and drag her home. No, she'll be sober as a judge. I wanted to talk about, because this is, you know, we talked about the Crown and we talked about unlawful killing, and I wanted to sort of dovetail into how is King Charles coming across to you? Do you think he's a weak king? Do you think he's portraying himself as a weak king when actually he's ruling with a fist of iron and a velvet glove? I will say that betrayal is a bitter pill to swallow. I mean, if you look, so Demo Scrotum, he's the author. Now you'll notice the first one, Finding Freedom, there were 2 authors on that book, and mysteriously the other female author has just disappeared into the ether. Gone. And yet Scrotum's hanging around like a bad smell. And now he's written a second book from his notes from the first. Now, I'm not sure what his source is, or sources are, but this flights up to Balmoral. I remember at the time he was told, no, Harry, sling your hook, organise your own flight. You've got the money. Organise your own. Now, what most people forget, and Demo Scrotum has forgotten, was that Harry and Meghan were in Europe for the Invictus Games. And then the Invictus Games closed and Harry just hung about like a bad smell. Was it Germany or Holland? He hung about for a while. Oh, we're just going to stay in Europe. So I figure that they were well aware that the Queen was not very well at all. Yeah, GB Patriot. Epstein's yacht girl is the source. Just ask Randy Andy. I agree with you. Passed around like a packet of M&Ms. So all this conjecture about whether he got a flight up with the royal family or whether he didn't, the royal family are not going to have that in their midst, flying up to Balmoral after what he did with Oprah and Finding Freedom. I mean, either this boy is absolutely devoid of any intelligence, and I think it's close, but he comes across well because he's had the best trainers. But they're using this to generate sales for the book, and I believe it's going to backfire. I believe that the general public is so brassed off with the royal family, with King Charles not doing anything about this. King Charles should have nipped this in the bud. When he went and did the Oprah interview, there was all this conjecture about whether they were going to have their titles taken off them and the king was going to do something. The king's come out this week and gone, oh, yeah, well, the kids, I don't want anything to do with them. What? Sort yourself out. Give your head a wobble. Deal with these two. Stop mucking about. If the rumours are true, and it was Yahoo News that published it, and they said Harry and Meghan are 28 million in debt. 28 million. The agency that are trying to promote them are like banging their head against a brick wall. And then I saw a piece of footage of the King Charles III, today, and he's not walking very well at all. I mean, he's, in my view, in my humble opinion, he's not far away from walking with a stick. But he's limping. So I don't think, as an old boy, he's in the greatest of health. I mean, look at his sausage fingers. I'm sure it puts a smile on Camilla's face, but look at sausage fingers. So is his health in question? And if that is the case, and there's every chance, then maybe they are going to have a soft handover. GB Patriot, titles should be taken off them, Adrian, but it would take an act of parliament to do it. Adrian, Charlie's abdicating at 80. Well, I gave a theory on Wednesday. It might be a little later than that because I think it's all about George turning 18. Because, yes, William can ascend to the throne, but is Charlie really going to want to abdicate? Just step aside in favour of William? If his health is not very good, there's every chance. But you're taken out on your shield if you're the monarch. It's not something you kind of go, oh, I'm not in the mood. Not in the mood. Right, I'm off. Me and the missus, we're off. No, you get taken out on your shield and the next king or queen takes over. But it's the William ascendancy and George ascending with him to be Prince of Wales. I'm sure they want him to be Prince of Wales in his 20s rather than his teenage years. And then who's coming next? I mean, when is George going to meet the love of his life and start having kids and stuff? So I don't think that Charles will step aside easily because they need 3 generations. And George is not going to ascend until 18. And that's when Harry can go and sling his hook. He can go and foxtrot Oscar. And I don't think that... Well, this question, I'll give you this question. You can answer it in the comments. Why should Harry have been allowed on any flight with members of the royal family just to betray them again? I mean, what I think should be being done is that Harry should be standing firm and distancing himself from the details within the book. Not necessarily the book itself, but Harry can come out and say, no, that's not what happened. I don't know where he's got that from. It was a letter from Meghan to Charles. Harry told us initially that he was party to a conversation and it was one person. So who is it that's lumped the Princess of Wales, Catherine, into this row? Who is it? Now, Demo Scrotum has turned round and gone, no, I didn't put it in my manuscript. It must have been translated wrongly. No, I think you're fine, mate. It was in your manuscript because the translators come out, the Dutch translators come out and go, no, I just translated what was in front of me. That was in front of me, so I translated it. And you can't go Charles and Catherine and come up with, translate them wrongly. So Harry, being the blood prince, not her, not the side piece, Harry, the blood prince, should come out and say, enough is enough. We have no knowledge, but if they start Giorgio, they could actually put themselves deeper in the shite. GB Patriot, won't be long before Meghan moves on to the next mug. Harry will be back with his tail between his legs. Well, if you look at earlier this year, weren't they saying that Harry had hotel rooms, like block booked out for months or however long, and he wasn't staying at the Montecito mansion? Now, why would that be? There was also rumours that she was off having a dance with a billionaire of certain repute. And now they're all cuddly and loved up again. Why? I think Harry worships her. I think Harry is not thinking upstairs for thinking, downstairs for dancing, and I don't think he's thinking up here. But there's little Meghan. She's offended by the inoffensive. And she's self-admitted. Remember that ITV documentary where, nobody was asking how she was? Well, she's self-admitted that she's got mental health problems. Harry's admitted that he's got mental health problems. A pair of them rattling around in that mansion. And I have the News of the World. As I say, I have an archive of newspapers and I keep them for events or moments like this, where the News of the World reported that the then Prince Charles had admitted Harry into rehab, but the rehab was a heroin rehab. Now, very cleverly, what the News of the World said was that he was going to a particular rehab, and that they would normally rehab people that had an addiction to this particular substance. But they didn't say that he was addicted to a particular substance. They just said he was going to rehab. And the rehab was a heroin rehab. Remember that? That was front page news of the News of the World. And there's little Megan, who gets married. We don't know how many times she's been married. We know twice for certain, but seemingly there was another one that there was an annulment of some kind. And so she's possibly been married 3 times. But the Trevor Engelson, they got married and they were handing out bags of weed to all the people, all their friends and relatives that went to the wedding. So they're not averse to a bit of gear, these two. No wonder they're paranoid. So I think if you look at all this week, it's just he said, she said. He said, she said. Omid Scobie, Meghan Markle, Harry saying nout, the royal family saying nout, and then there's just this feeding frenzy in the mainstream media. Charles should have just cut the knees off this whole story and said, we will deal with it, as the Queen did, with the bullying. Because remember, that's never come out about Meghan allegedly bullying staff, royal staff. That's never come out. Just release it. It'll nail her to the wall. If there's any allegations of bullying, especially staff and mistreating staff, then just let it come out. We don't. I want to know whether you are sick and tired of just this weakness and wokeness, and Charlie being more bothered about speaking to plants and going to COP28 and doing other things because his image as a statesman needs to be upheld at all times. Well, how it, man? Deal with them! You're the bloody king. You can do whatever you want. Oh, one of the oldest bloodlines on planet Earth. Just deal with them. We're sick and tired of the newspapers reporting on it and talking shite about it. Now, here's the kicker. There's an MP called Bob Seeley. Now, remember, Harry said in the Oprah interview, I was party to a conversation, so it was him. And he was reporting it to his missus. And whether his missus has blabbed it on to Marcus What's-His-Face. I saw something the other day about, is it Marcus Anderson? Possibly lovers with Omid Scobie. I think somebody's flying a kite there. Do you want me to go down that rabbit hole? Or should we leave that for Wednesday? See if I can get more information. But Harry said at the Oprah interview, I'm never, ever, ever going to name that name. I'm never going to name it. And they have. And Harry said, there was a conversation had where I was present. Meghan wasn't, because she wasn't there at the time. Has he gone home and kind of done a barter deal? Or can we, am I on a promise tonight, darling? And if I give you the racist's name, I'll tell you what's going on. Shall we have a dance? So Bob Seeley is wanting to put an end to all of this. He's an MP, he's a Tory MP, and he's putting an amendment to the 1917 Titles Deprivation Act. Bit of a gobful. But simply put, he's saying, if someone doesn't want to be a royal, that is a decision that we respect. But they should not keep the titles and privileges if they trash an institution that plays an important part in our nation's life. Quote. I'll say it again. If someone doesn't want to be royal, that is a decision we respect. But they should not keep the titles and privileges if they trash an institution that plays an important part in our nation's life. So this is going into the House of Commons this week. Tory MP Bob Seeley. Now, is this sort of, whispers in Parliament? Oh, Bob, do this. Bob, do that. Yeah, we'll give you, we'll give you a life peerage or something once you've done it. Let's just, because Charles, I've always said to you, it's all about deniability. Deniability. So they don't want to go, my hands toucheth nothing. Like Meghan, she'll go, Well, I didn't mean for it to become public. I didn't want to out the names. The Telegraph had that story on Friday. So they need deniability, and the King will have deniability if somebody goes, enough is enough is enough. We're going to the Houses of Commons and we're going to put an amendment to the 1917 Titles Deprivation Act. Because some very clever barristers, legal individuals have worked it out. Here, let's just get rid of them. But if they take the title off them, she becomes a princess. Oh, can you imagine? She'd be insufferable. But what are the options? Just get rid of them. Hang on. Pink Rose. Ask Adrian to give me a break. What, we're playing snooker now? Very quickly, let's talk about I'm a Celeb, because there was so much more that I wanted to get through. Has I'm a Celeb run its course? Grace Dent, legged it. Give me the money, legged it. Oh, it's daylight robbery. At least Dick Turpin wore a mask. Jamie Lynn Spears, $250,000. Nice. Tower Block Tracy, a definition of contemporary Russian conflict, written by Bob Seeley. Nice. Clever boy. So Grace Dent and Jamie Lynn Spears, nearly 400 grand between them, just for, let's go into the jungle for a week or so and then leg it. And then we've got this woke race baiter, Nella. And if it wasn't for Nigel Garage, I wouldn't be watching it. I wouldn't. It's just dull. Dull, dull, dull. But interestingly, if Nigel Garage is out over the next couple of days, the word is that his girlfriend is going into Australia to meet him when he comes out of the bush. I'm sure his wife won't be best happy. So what ITV going to do? Is this going to be like a ritual slaughter? Are they going to have girlfriend meet wife as he comes out of the jungle and then just stand back with a wide lens on it going, go on, Nigel, go on, which one are you going to go with? I mean, cool. I think we'll talk about this a little longer on Wednesday night, because as I keep saying to you, always look at these sort of situations with hindsight, looking backwards, not forwards. And before we kind of round this off, we're almost close to 100 likes. So if you could please just smash the likes until we get over 100, please. This Euro 2024 draw. So England have not got a bad draw, but did you hear the humpy noises in the background? Now, seemingly there's a guy whose name I won't repeat who did this to Match of the Day. And I remember seeing Match of the Day and laughing my cap off. The vapist out of one bush and into another. I'll set them up for you. Tower Block Tracy, will Nige vote to leave his wife, or will I guarantee there will be no election? Honestly, you should try telling the Japanese about a general election, and they laugh their caps off. Some of my Japanese friends, they say, what you say? What you say? It's a general election. What you say? They don't have an L. It translates into an R. I'll leave it with you. So the humpy noises, the background humpy noises for Match of the Day, and then Euro 2024 did exactly the same thing. I mean, they broadcast it live, and you can't find it anywhere. I managed to find it after a bit of deep digging, but I just thought it's the funniest thing. I like somebody who is a bit of an agent provocateur, who is just doing funny things, because sometimes we do need a bit of a giggle. But the humpy noises from a hidden phone at the venue did it at Match of the Day, and then how the hell he got this phone into this venue for the 2024 European draw. I mean, can you imagine if you're ever going to do anything live on the telly, you're going to be so nervous that this guy hasn't secreted some microphone somewhere about, so all of a sudden you're just going to get the humpy noises at the very moment where people are watching for, oh, let's see who England's going to get drawn with. Is that me mother? And finally, I'm just going to throw this into the mix, because it is something that I'm going to keep an eye on, because not Rupert Murdoch, 92, legging it with a woman tipped to be the 5th Mrs. Murdoch. I mean, is he a glutton for punishment? Rupert Murdoch, 92, seemingly he's going to get married to some Russian-sounding woman who's 66. So he's been seen going on a private jet with 8 cases of grog. Blimey. Digger, what are you up to, man? The 5th? He must be a glutton for punishment. And I'll do that on Wednesday. But keep your eye on this. I'm certainly going to. Liz Truss, not because of what's gone on over the last 6 months or over a year when she was in power, but she's introducing a bill to the Commons this week that would prevent the state from formally recognising social transitioning for under 18s. Now, what that will mean, if it's passed, and it's going to be a private member's bill, it would prevent under 18s from accessing irreversible hormone therapy and protect single-sex spaces in law. So it means that women and their single-sex spaces will be protected in law. And anyone that wants to transition, they can transition, of course. But under 18, the hormonal therapy will not be allowed. They will be protected from accessing that route under 18. So I think that's a very, very... And I think rather than her being a lettuce or stuff going on, I think that will be her lasting legacy. And I do believe that will go through as a private member's bill, and it will be... it will ascend into law. Junie Stevens says, do you trust Liz Truss? No, the lettuce lasted longer, but I do believe that this is a really important piece of legislation that's going through the House of Commons as a private member's bill. Something for you to watch. And I didn't want to get bogged down with politics and serious stuff. I just wanted to bring some observations on life in an entertaining way. So thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all your indulgence. That's it for this evening's live stream. If you want to make some comments, you can do for the next 30 seconds or so. And I will see you this coming Wednesday. Remember, live number 45. It's a 9 number this coming Wednesday at 8 o'clock. There'll be more videos coming. We are working on something which we feel is quite a... No, I won't say anything. You just have to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you get alerts when there's a new GB Patriot. You're wrong, and you've seen right through me. Yeah, I've had the hibiscus. Now I need some Battenberg. Be well, stay well, and I'll see you for the live on Wednesday. Au revoir, and enjoy the Battenberg.